I'm in a playful mood today because today is my birthday. Oh, thank you so much. 71 today. Oh, you don't look a day over 69. So today's my birthday, and what I want to do today is I want to make homemade sausages again. And I've done it before, and I've got like 4 recipes on YouTube for different types of sausages that I've made myself. I want to do chorizo sausages again because that's my most popular sausage recipe. Okay, a couple things first. Chorizo and chorizo sausages are not the same thing. Here in Southern California, we have chorizo in the stores, which is like a dark red pork paste. And it comes in a plastic tube. You remove the plastic and discard it, and then use the meat in your recipe. A most popular way to use it is chorizo and eggs. Chorizo sausages are sausage links, like Italian sausage links, and supposedly they're most common in Western Europe, like west, if I have my geography right, west of the Pyrenees, so like in Spain, Iberia, and so forth. I want to make the sausage links because I want to test, this is the second thing, I want to test collagen sausage casings. In the past, I've always used natural animal casings, which are the skin from the intestines of an animal, like a lamb or a pig. I'm going to use collagen, which is sort of somewhat synthetic, although we have collagen in our bodies. It's kind of like it's what gelatin, I think, is made of. So let's make chorizo sausages. I have here 2.5 pounds, or about 1.1 kilograms, of pork shoulder with the fat, as you can see. You need that fat to make a delicious sausage with good texture. This was a one-piece roast that I cut into strips to work through my meat grinder attachment for my KitchenAid. I put the meat grinder in the refrigerator, by the way, for several hours because that helps the meat to pass through it more easily. I'm going to use this larger bowl to catch the ground meat. So start the stand mixer and then feed strips of pork and fat into the hopper on top. And by the way, I'm using a medium grinding plate. So there is my ground meat coming out of the grinder. There is a meat auger inside that is forcing the meat through the grinder. I made a pusher out of a wood utensil. I think it was once a tart tamper that works well for pushing the meat down into the auger. For obvious reasons, you don't want to force your fingers down there. Keep working until all the meat is ground. Let's talk about spices next. And yes, I'm wearing a rubber glove. If you're wondering why I'm not cleaning toilets, I don't want, when I massage this meat and get it all blended, I don't want the meat to get in under my fingernails. Okay, so I've got 2 tablespoons in this bowl, 2 tablespoons of paprika, 2 to 3 tablespoons of chili powder, as mild or as hot and spicy as you like it, 1 teaspoon black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1/4 teaspoon of either freshly grated ginger, or you can use 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon dried oregano crushed. I crushed it between my hands, the oregano flakes. So that was the oregano, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of salt, and either 6 cloves of garlic crushed or 1 scant teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm using the garlic powder. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to start blending this in. And in my research, I learned that this is where you can control the texture of your sausage. If you crush it a lot and mash it up, you'll get a very smooth, soft textured sausage meat. If you just kind of stir it around to blend those herbs and spices in, then you'll have a more coarsely textured. I don't know which one I prefer. Okay, I'm going to put a cover on this and then refrigerate this for maybe 2 to 3 hours or so, just to let those the moisture in the meat help the spices to release their flavor and to flavor that meat. So there this is, covered. And lest I forget, I washed out the meat grinder and all its parts, and I put that back in the refrigerator so that the metal will be cold again when I process the meat. The colder the meat, the more easily it passes through the meat grinder and the sausage stuffing tube. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using collagen sausage casings. One issue with these is that they don't stretch like natural hog casings, for example. And therefore, if you overfill them, they will burst. I don't know how much to use. One side pulls out from the inside. This is the part that goes on the outside of the tube. I don't have a lot of meat there, so I'm going to break this open here and then cut it. Put this back in the package. Package does say to refrigerate this. So close that up and refrigerate it. And then slide that onto my sausage stuffing tube. Now, normally when you make sausages with casings, natural casings, animal casings, you can twist the sausages into links and they'll stay that way. Supposedly, collagen cases won't stay twisted. They'll untwist. So, one of the books I have says to tie it off with a string, nice and tight. And I like the idea of string anyways, because when I go to share these with others, when they see it tied off with string, they'll know it's homemade. I can say, see, I made my own sausages from scratch. One thing you can do to test the meat for seasoning is just cook a little bit of it before you start stuffing sausages. And then if you have to adjust it for salt, you can put more salt in with the mix it up again, and then start stuffing your sausages. I'm going to try to keep both hands dry. So one to catch the sausage as it comes off, and the other, I'm going to use tongs to fill the hopper here with meat. So there are my sausage is, plural, sort of. It's one big casing. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to start off by tying this off. Piece of string, get that end tied off. Snip that, and then snip off some of that excess casing. And I think I'm going to make these, make them 4 inches long is a good enough length. Okay, you could just squeeze and just twist it off, but they say these casings don't hold their those twists very well. Also, what I made for myself of a dowel and an old sewing needle, I made a sausage pricker because I have air in there. There's air pocket here. And then you can squeeze that meat back a little bit to fill the casing. That's 4 inches. And I'm going to make kind of a wide space in between here. I've got a little canister that I'm using for string. Someone gave me this. It's an Italian-made canister. It was a present, and I wondered, how could I use that? And then I got the idea, use it for butcher's twine. So there's one knot there. That seals that one off. And then another piece. Over here next to this sausage. Tie it off. And then you can snip right in between. And there's a sausage. Check that out. All right, so I have the rest of these to do. I'm going to be using my sausage pricker to get the air out. And little by little, I'll get these all tied off into 4-inch links. So there they are. I got almost a dozen. I guess a dozen if you count this little guy here. They're about 4 inches long, which is about 10 centimeters. That's what came out of that 2.5 pounds of pork meat and fat that I had. What did I say that was? 1.1 kilograms about. Going to wrap these up, put them in the refrigerator. You can keep them for a couple of days in the refrigerator. If you're going to keep them longer, wrap them well and freeze them. Meanwhile, I'm going to call a friend to ask him when he's out this way next. And if he's out here within a day or two, I'll give him and his wife some of these sausages. Oh, and what do you do with the meat that's left over inside the grinder and the stuffing tube? Fry that up for yourself. This is what I call chef's reward. This is my treat. I get to taste my sausages without actually breaking into any of those yet. I can taste this cooked meat. So there you are, homemade, again, chorizo sausages like the ones I made, what was that, several months ago? Maybe a couple of years ago? I don't remember. But I have to say that today being my 71st birthday, I've decided on a birthday present for myself. I'm going to buy a dedicated sausage stuffer thing rather than use that meat grinder because it was a lot of work forcing that meat through that grinder to stuff these sausages. So meanwhile, I've got my chef's reward to go and enjoy. This is going to be my afternoon snack. One thing you can do to test your meat for seasoning is just take a little bit of... That didn't work.